If no members wish to speak, I will invite the 6 public officers to speak. Financial Secretary.
Madam Deputy, good morning, members. I thank the Council's motion of thanks so that the members are afforded an opportunity to speak and make comments. And I thank all the members who have spoken. Well, this policy address is about building a bright future together. It sets out the visions in various fields, and there are a number of proposals in the policy address. And I'm now talking about some brief comments.
Benefiting Hong Kong's economy rebounded strongly by 6.4% in 2021, reversing the previous 2 years of decline thanks to strong export performance and renewed momentum in domestic demand. The labor market also improved substantially. Unemployment rate dropped from the height of 7.2% from the early part of the year to 3.9% in the fourth quarter after seasonal adjustment. However, the economic recovery was uneven and inbound tourism remained frozen. With the start of the year, the 5th wave of the new coronavirus outbreak has put heavy pressure on local economic activities. The government decided to tighten the anti-epidemic and social distancing measures. Catering, retail, and consumer-related sectors will be facing a lot of pressure this year, given the downturn in the market. On the price front, underlying consumer price inflation is set to rise moderately in 2021, averaging 0.6% for the year and lower than the 1.3% of 2020. While local cost prices are still limited, increased external price pressures will push up local inflation, and we need to be concerned about the impact of the epidemic on the prices of individual consumer items. As for the residential property market, it was active in the first 3 quarters of last year, with a total of around 74,300 residential property sales and purchases for the year, the highest since 2012. The cumulative increase of around 3% for the year has been a bit muted due to the epidemic and Chinese New Year, with property prices moving further away, and prices have been dimmed. The global economy should continue to recover this year, but at a more moderate pace. Last month, the International Monetary Fund lowered its forecast for global economic growth to 4.4% in 2022, noting that downside risks remain significant as factors such as the spread of mutant viruses and rising inflation could slow economic growth. As for the major economies, the mainland economy grew by 8.1% last year, faster than most economies, although the mainland economy is facing some downward pressure. Its solid fundamentals, coupled with ample policy space, will support the steady growth of the mainland economy this year and continue to be the engine of global economic growth. The U.S. economy is expected to grow further this year. However, to cope with rising inflation, the Federal Reserve has started to tighten monetary policy, and fiscal policy is expected to be less supportive this year, which may slow down the growth of the U.S. economy. In Europe, the Eurozone economy is expected to continue to recover this year, but the risk factors of recurrent epidemics, supply bottlenecks, high inflation, and geopolitical developments still need to be taken into account. Growth prospects for Japan and other Asian economies this year are also dependent on the development of their respective epidemics. Overall, with further recovery expected in the major economies, Hong Kong's economy should continue to expand this year, until the fifth wave of the epidemic arrives in earnest. This will add a new layer of pressure on the economy and may undermine market confidence in the outlook. In light of the developments, the government has taken resolute restrictive measures. Although the short-term impact on local economic activities is unavoidable, we must control the epidemic in order to protect the safety and health of the public and prevent further disruption to the livelihoods of wage earners and SMEs. So these restrictive measures are necessary. The government has also launched a new round of the anti-epidemic fund to provide assistance to those affected by the epidemic, so that the pressing needs can also be resolved. I believe that as long as the community can fully cooperate with the government's efforts to prevent and combat the epidemic and actively receive vaccinations, we will be able to contain the epidemic and create the conditions for a sustainable economic recovery. As for this year's economic growth and inflation forecast, we have been closely monitoring the changes and developments in the market. Details will be announced in the budget. Moving on, I will now outline the government's economic development strategy. Hong Kong's development is closely linked to that of the motherland. Relying on the motherland and facing the world is an important direction for Hong Kong's continued success. The ACR government will continue to capitalize on Hong Kong's unique advantages under one country, two systems. We will also take advantage of the opportunities brought about by the 14th Five-Year Plan and the GBA development. And we will play a unique and active role in our country's new stage of development. We will play an important role as both a participant in the domestic cycle and a facilitator of the international circulation, using the GBA as an entry point to actively integrate into the overall development of the country. In terms of financial services, we will further enhance our competitiveness and strengthen Hong Kong's position as the preferred platform for international financing for mainland enterprises, as well as an important communication platform for the mainland and the international community. In addition, we will contribute to the internationalization of RMB and play a role as a firewall and testing ground to become the leading offshore RMB center in the mainland. We will promote the development of technology in Hong Kong, nurture talent, and continue to improve our financial infrastructure and regulatory system. On the maritime front, the government will continue to promote the port and maritime business of Hong Kong, particularly in the development of high-value-added maritime services to complement the strengths of the other ports in the Greater Bay Area and strengthen Hong Kong's position as an international maritime center. We will make full use of the industry's competitive edge in high-value-added services and actively promote the development of the logistics industry. We will also continue to enhance the intermodal or multimodal transport by sea, land, and air through interconnectivity and encourage the industry to use technology to enhance efficiency and productivity, so as to enhance the role of Hong Kong as a regional logistics hub. To enhance Hong Kong's status as an international trade center, the SAR government will continue to expand its global economic and trade networks, promote diversified and regional cooperation, and develop the mainland's domestic market, reinforcing Hong Kong's role as a platform connecting the rest of the world and as an important node along the Belt and Road Initiative. Hong Kong is actively seeking to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, the RPCA, to facilitate trade and investment flows between the mainland and other RCEP member economies, particularly between the GBA and also the ASEAN countries, so that we'll be able to make contribution to our country's external activities. In terms of innovation, the current government has invested more than $130 billion in the development of innovation and technology, and the results are beginning to show. The atmosphere in innovation and technology is robust. Hong Kong is ranked second in the world ranking in digital competitiveness and first in Asia in 2021, and is the second largest biotechnology financing center in the world. The government will actively participate in the establishment of an international technology innovation center in the GBA, covering research, talent, startup support, technology investment, and smart production to promote innovation as a new economic engine and create more quality employment opportunities. On the aviation front, the SAR government will adopt a series of measures to strengthen Hong Kong's role as an international aviation hub. We will actively engage in aviation cooperation with sister cities in the GBA, including developing the intermodal sea-air cargo transport between the Hong Kong International Airport and Dongguan, and promoting collaboration with Zhuhai Airport. To enhance the competitiveness of the HKIA, the Airport Authority will open the third runway this year, as scheduled, and complete the entire runway system in 2024. Starting from 2034, the HKIA will be able to handle approximately 120 million passengers and 10 million tons of cargo annually, making a significant contribution to the economic development of Hong Kong and the GBA. The potential of the mainland market is tremendous and has been a key focus for many Hong Kong businesses. The SAR government and the TDC will continue to assist Hong Kong businesses in developing the domestic market and seizing the huge business opportunities in the mainland to promote domestic sales and demand. Since May last year, the TDC has organized promotional activities and provided support to enterprises in Guangdong, Shanghai, Sichuan, Hubei, and Fujian to strengthen economic trade and cooperation, and MOUs have also been signed. The government will continue to strive to introduce more liberalization measures under CEPA to help Hong Kong enterprises and professionals enter the mainland market through strategic access points such as the GBA and Hainan. Tourism is the industry that has been most seriously affected by the epidemic. Therefore, the government has provided 6 rounds of financial support to the industry through the Anti-Epidemic Fund, involving a cumulative commitment of over $342 million. When the epidemic situation stabilizes, the government will use the vaccine pass as the basis for reopening the tourist facilities or resuming the local tours as soon as possible. Hong Kong will first clear customs with the mainland and Macau as soon as possible, and then resume cross-border exchanges with overseas economies in an orderly manner. The government will also strive to optimize local tourism resources and promote cultural, heritage, and creative tourism projects with special characteristics to prepare for the return of visitors. In the face of the impact of the epidemic, the government has introduced anti-cyclical measures in the past 2 budgets. Together with the support measures of the Anti-Epidemic Fund, totaling about $468 billion. In the face of the ongoing epidemic and the complex and volatile international political and economic landscape, the government will continue to exercise prudent financial management and respond to both known and unknown situations and needs. We will maintain Hong Kong's financial system stability in order to respond to the needs. Madam Deputy, Bureau Heads will be speaking on their respective policy areas and response to remarks by the lawmakers. With these, I'd like to urge members to support the 2022 policy address. Thank you.
Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs. Madam Deputy, as the Secretary has to attend an urgent meeting on combating the epidemic, I will be speaking on his behalf. First of all, I thank all members for giving valuable comments. I'll be speaking on the measures in the policy address related to the integration into the national development and the 14th 5-year plan and the 2035 long-term objective framework were adopted by the NPC on the 11th of March last year. It has provided clear direction for the position of Hong Kong's future, and also while maintaining long-term prosperity, Hong Kong will be able to be better integrated into the national development. The 14th 5-year plan framework, as in the past, support the upgrading of Hong Kong's status in international finance, shipping and trading, and also additionally, there will be 4 new centers that will be supported. That is our international aviation hub status, an international innovation and technology Center, a regional IP trading center, as well as East Meets West Center for International Cultural Exchange. We make use of our rule of law, our markets, and our international advantages, and act in accordance with the dual circulation theme of national development. Will be an active participation in domestic circulation and a facilitator in international circulation. We'll make use of this entry point, that is the GBA development, so that we can better be integrated in the plan. To enhance people's understanding of 14th Five-Year Plan, we have come up with a special TV programs to introduce the position of Hong Kong under this framework, and we encourage business and our people to seize the opportunities presented by the new development. The GBA is an important strategy under the opening up theme of national development, and it's an important part to the construction of one country, two system program. We attach importance in launching measures so that we can emerge from the epidemic. We support Hong Kong residents and professionals to live and work in the GBA and to set up businesses. We support enterprises to seize the opportunity presented in the GBA. And at the same time, these measures will help enterprises in GBA and cities in the GBA to explore international markets, so that Hong Kong will act as a role of in a two-way exchange. Under the Shanghai opening up reform plan announced on the 6th of September last year, the area cover will be expanded from 14.92 square kilometers to 120.56 square meters. There will be a highly integrated interface with Hong Kong for modern service industries and international standards. And under the principle of one country, two systems, and also the framework for the development of GBA and Guangdong Hong Kong Bay Area, we would seek innovations and interconnection with other cities and play a complementary roles with other cities in the GBA. In October last year, the CE announced that in relation to cooperation with other provinces and cities, we are going to set up a new cooperation platform with Hubei province. The CE paid a visit to Hubei in November last year. There was the first meeting of high-level cooperation between Hong Kong and Hubei was convened. We discussed and reached consensus on 13 areas of cooperation areas. 2 cooperation agreements were signed. We have now established a cooperation mechanism with Pearl River Delta, Guangdong, Beijing, Shanghai, Fujian, Sichuan, Hubei, Shenzhen, and Macau. Actually, last year, we convened meetings with the Pearl River Delta region, Guangdong, Shanghai, Sichuan, and Hubei, and Shenzhen will act as a facilitator and promoter in relation to the cooperation with these provinces and cities, so as to give Hong Kong businesses more opportunities. The 14th Five-Year Plan provide facilitation for Hong Kong and Macau residents to live and work in the mainland. We have 5 mainland ETOs and 11 liaison officers. They play an important role. They promote business and trade and investment and support for Hong Kong businessmen, covering various fields. We also promote exchanges in different areas and promote Hong Kong and offer help to Hong Kong people in the mainland. To further expand the roles of these ETOs, we would rename them to reflect their greater roles and functions. In this process, we welcome suggestions from members. We'll study in detail the views and aspirations of Hong Kong residents or bodies in the mainland so as to better support their work. On the opening up of the boundary, on the 23rd of November 20, we have this Return Hong Kong scheme introduced and expanded to all of the mainland on the 26th of April, so that Hong Kong residents, as long as they satisfy certain conditions, can return to Hong Kong without the need of quarantine. We have so far 420,000 Hong Kong residents returning to Hong Kong through this scheme. And we also allow non-Hong Kong residents, if they fulfill certain conditions, to come to Hong Kong or from Guangdong or Macau without the need to go through quarantine. And so far, we have 30,000 non-Hong Kong residents coming to Hong Kong through this scheme. With this strong support of the central government, we have been working hard on reopening the boundary with the mainland. We have convened many meetings, both online and actual face-to-face meetings with mainland experts and officials. The SAR government will continue to prevent importation of COVID as well as the spreading local spread, and also achieve the objective of dynamic zero infection so as to create the necessary conditions to reopen the boundary. Madam Deputy, I thank members for their valuable and constructive views in this debate and also in last year's relevant panel meetings. Their views are very constructive. I urge members to support the motion of thanks. Thank you.
Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. Madam Deputy, first of all, I would like to thank members for their remarks on the theme of new impetus to the economy and their valuable comments. In the policy address, the Chief Executive proposed a number of financial services measures to further consolidate our Hong Kong status as an international financial center for the world and for the mainland. While bringing new impetus to Hong Kong economic growth, this measure also contributes to national development. Well, a lot of the members' comments are focused on financial industry, for example, Ms. Starry LEE, Ms. Can and Dr. Lee and Mr. Ronnie Chen and Mr. Rock Chen and Mr. Chen and others. I appreciate their input. One of our key priorities is to deepen connectivity with the mainland market. With the launch of the Cross-Boundary Wealth Management Connect and the Bond Connect Southbound Connect in the past year, and the launch of the MSCI China A50 Index Futures contract on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, next we'll strive to implement ETF Connect as soon as possible. To consolidate our position as a global offshore RMB business hub, we are conducting a feasibility study on allowing southbound stock trading under the Hong Kong Stock Connect to be denominated in renminbi. In addition, the 5 billion yuan offshore renminbi municipal bonds issued by the Shenzhen Municipal People's Government in Hong Kong in last October enriched our renminbi financial offerings in the Hong Kong market. The interest rate and the profits earned from this debt instrument will be exempted from profit tax. In addition, in view of the increasing demand of the MPF industry to facilitate MPF investment in bonds issued by the central government, we plan to propose to the Legislative Council in the middle of this year to amend the relevant laws to include the central government, the People's Bank of China, and the 3 mainland policy banks on the list of exempted authorities, and in subsidiary legislation to confer the power to designate other mainland government agencies and policy banks as exempted authorities in the future. At the same time, we will improve the listing mechanism in various aspects. Following the introduction of the listing system for companies in emerging and innovative industries in 2018, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange further optimized the system for overseas issuers to list in Hong Kong at the beginning this year, including allowing large companies already listed overseas and do not have the weighted voting rights structure, as well as belong to the traditional industries coming to Hong Kong for secondary listings, and gave more flexibility for dual primary listing issuers, and introduced a spec-specific listing system. A few members cared about the insurance industry. We are now working with the Insurance Authority to strengthen Hong Kong's role as an international risk management center through various measures, including striving for the Hong Kong insurance industry to set up insurance after-sales service centers in the mainland cities in the GBA, and to implement the unilateral recognition of cross-boundary auto insurance as soon as possible. In addition, we plan to introduce legislative amendments to the Lech Code this year to implement a risk-based capital system and launch a public consultation this year on the specific proposals of a policyholder protection scheme. In promoting the development of green finance, last November, we successfully issued the third batch of green bonds with an equivalent total value of USD $3.75 billion to institutional investors through the government green bond program. This is also our first launch of the euro and renminbi denominated bonds, providing an important new benchmark for potential issuers in Hong Kong and the region. We have just announced the details of the issuance of retail green bonds on Tuesday for public subscription. In addition, the Green and Sustainable Finance Cross-Agency Steering Group, composed of relevant policy bureau and financial regulators, has also conducted a preliminary assessment of Hong Kong's carbon market opportunities and exploring ways to develop Hong Kong into a regional carbon trading center. In terms of fintech, the Fintech Proof of Concept Subsidy Scheme launched last year has received positive response, with more than 90 projects approved, involving funding of about $10 million. The Coordination Group on Implementation of FinTech Initiatives, chaired by myself, held its first meeting in last December. In future, the Coordination Group will continue to comprehensively review and supervise all key aspects of FinTech development. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority and the Digital Currency Institute of the People's Bank of China are also advancing the next stage technical testing plan for CNY for cross-boundary payments in Hong Kong. At the same time, HKMA is studying the feasibility of issuing Hong Kong dollars in Hong Kong, expected to put forward preliminary ideas in the middle of this year. We attach great importance for talent training in the financial services industry and have added senior asset management compliance professionals and senior ESG-related financial professionals to the Hong Kong talent list. After the HKMA promulgated the competency standard framework of the Banking Professional Qualification Frameworks FinTech in December 2021, the Hong Kong Institute of Bankers are also applying for the Qualification Framework accreditation for 6 professional qualifications, which are expected to be complete within this year. We shall continue to optimize financial infrastructure in Hong Kong. The EMPA platform has entered development stage. Our goal is to complete the development of the POG platform with a user-led design by the end of this year at the earliest, and allow the trustees to migrate to the platform in stages starting from next April, so that the EMPA platform will be fully operational by 2025 after all trustees migrated to the platform. In order to enhance financial regulations in Hong Kong, we will launch a number of initiatives, including statutory regulatory regime for virtual asset service providers, continue to implement other regulatory standards set by international bodies such as the Behel Committee and the Financial Stability Board, and implement the new inspection arrangements for the companies registered under the company's ordinance, etc. In terms of public finances, in the face of the epidemic's impact, we've introduced counter-cyclical measures and reliefs in the budget for the past 2 years. Together with the 6th round of support from the Anti-Epidemic Fund, the total amount exceeds $464 billion. In the face of fluctuating epidemic situation and volatile global geopolitical landscape, we shall continue to abide by the principles of keeping expenditure within the means of revenue and allocating resources where they are required, and retain our financial strength to ensure financial stability and cope with known and unknown issues, situation and needs. With these remarks, I hope the member will support the motion of thanks and the government's work in promoting the financial industry. Thank you, Deputy. Secretary of Development. As a development secretary, need to chair a COVID-related meeting. Therefore, I will stand in for him. First, I would like to express my sincere thanks to many members for their valuable comments during the debate, which we will seriously consider. Land supply has always been a top priority of the current administration. Regarding the current housing and supply situation, that we have decided to favor public housing in the overall housing mix. We've identified it to build land enough for 330,000 public housing units. For the overall land supply, a good starting point is the Hong Kong 2030 Plus research report released in last October. According to the final estimates, the overall land demand between 2019 and 2048 is about 5,800 to 6,200 hectares. On the supply side, through a multi-pronged approach to land scouting, we aim to achieve an overall new supply of 7,300 hectares at the same cycle. It is worth mentioning that the medium to long-term supply of 40,100 hectares mainly comes from two key projects, namely the Kau Chau Artificial Island of about 1,000 hectares and Northern Metropolis covering about 2,300 hectares. For these two significant projects, we will proceed at full speed. On the Northern Metropolis, many projects have been carried out in full swing. Recording the Sha Tin Technopole and the Lo Wu Mankamto development node proposed in the strategy. In the relevant study carried out in last October, we have appropriately adjusted the study scope to cover the proposed new development sites. The strategy also proposes to develop the Lau Fau Shan, Sim Bi Jui, and Pak Nai area and the Ma Chou Long area. We plan to launch two new studies this year to explore the development potential of these areas respectively. In addition, the Yuen Long South NDA has entered the development stage. We hope to apply to LegCo for funding for detailed design and start within this year, and we are counting for the member support. Although the entire Northern Metropolis is expected to be generally completed in about 20 years, some of these projects will begin to enter the harvesting period in the next few years, and such as the Kutong North, Fanling North, and the Hongshui Q and Hachun NDA are currently under construction. We estimate that about 40% of the units in these new development areas under the Northern Metropolis package are expected to be completed in the next 10 years. As for the artificial islands in the central waters, the relevant research was carried out in June last year. We hope that by the fourth quarter of this year, we will put forward preliminary ideas on the scope of reclamation, specific land zoning, major transportation infrastructure, and alignment and financing options. Our original intention was to start the first stage of reclamation by 2027. At present, we are studying to streamline the process, hoping to advance the first reclamation to 2026, with the first population intake in 2033. Besides, in addition to land reclamation, we'll continue to invoke the Land Resumption Ordinance to beef up our resumption efforts. For the next 5 years alone, about 500 hectares could be resumed, which is equivalent to 100 hectares per year, a substantial increase of the past 3-year average of just 40 hectares a year. On urban renewal, for older districts, we'll actively promote urban renewal, not only to meet the demand for land, but also to deal with the problem of aging building stocks. Recently, the Urban Renewal Authority, the URA, has completed the district planning study for the Yau Mount area. In response to the findings, we hope to launch the first batch of the rezoning proposals this year to allow the interchange of domestic and non-domestic plot ratios, increasing the plot ratios along the Nathan Road commercial axis, and rezoning some character streets. Further, the URA has accepted our invitation to conduct a district planning study on Chun Wan and Sam Shui Po within this year. And the operation and the threshold of compulsory auctions are also a big issue. We have already launched a relevant policy study and hope to make recommendations in the middle of this year. Just now, a lot of members are talking about the streamlined development processes. We deep completely concur with this. At present, we're working intensively with the relevant policy bureaus and departments to review the development procedures stipulated in individual ordinances, which involve town planning, land resumption, environmental impact assessment (EIA), and roadworks, etc. The main direction is to streamline and compress statutory procedures, avoid duplication of procedures of similar nature, authorize departments to conduct certain procedures simultaneously, and rationalize such arrangements. We plan to consult the development panel on the specific proposals this March and aim to introduce legislative amendments within this year. On investing in infrastructure, the government has continuously allocated resources to infrastructure works, striving to improve people's lives and maintains our long-term competitiveness so as to promote economic and community development. In the 2020-21 legislative year, the Finance Committee of the LegCo has approved about $230 billion of works-related appropriations, an all-time high. In the next few years, we expect that the annual investment in capital works will continue to increase to about $100 billion. And the annual construction volume will increase to about $300 billion. We believe that infrastructure investment as a major counter-cyclical measure to stimulate the economy can accelerate recovery and create a large number of job opportunities, benefiting all sectors of the community. And recently, the demand for housing, healthcare, and transportation infrastructure, coupled with the development of the artificial islands in the central waters and the Northern Metropolis, such huge amount of construction in the future would test the capacity of the construction industry. It is also facing with an aging workforce, reduced productivity, high construction costs, and site safety challenges. In order to meet the challenges, we are proactively taking forward and implemented the strategic measures of Construction Industry 2.0. For example, modular construction and digitization of public works project, and digital engineering supervision system, and building information modeling (BIM), augmented by Construction Industry Innovation and Technology Fund to provide continuous support for the industry for enhanced construction efficiency, strengthen construction supervision and work assurances, and improving road site safety. Madam President, providing enough land to meet the needs of the society is a daunting challenge that the government and the whole society need to face together. In the past few years, we have done a lot of work, with many projects can be said to be entering fruition. But we will not be complacent. In the future, we will continue to work with firm determination to increase the land supply and housing supply in Hong Kong. I so submit and urge members to support this year's policy address.
Secretary for Transport and Housing. As Mr. Frankie Chan has to attend a very important and urgent meeting, and therefore I'll be reporting on his behalf. Madam Deputy, I'm grateful to members for your views. In the 14th Five-Year Plan announced last year, the central government expressly gave support to the further development of Hong Kong as an international aviation hub and international maritime center. To support the development of the air cargo industry, the Airport Authority of Hong Kong is collaborating with its business partners in expanding the express air cargo terminal so as to enhance Hong Kong's capability in handling express and small parcel shipments. It's expected to commission in 2022, and that will mean that its handling capacity will be increased by 50% to 1.06 million tons per annum. We will continue to work hand in hand with the industry to facilitate the flow of logistics information to the Greater Bay in the Greater Bay Area and improvements to the sea-land air intermodal operation. We have been actively searching for sites to develop multi-story port backup and modern logistics facilities so as to support port and logistics operations. One of the sites at Cheng Yi was put to sale through public tender on the 17th of December 2021, with a tender invitation to be closed on the 11th of March 2022. on maritime to seize upon the opportunities under the 14th Five-Year Plan and to further promote the development of high value-added maritime services sector, we plan to introduce an amendment bill to the LegCo in the first half of the year to provide half tax concession in order to attract more shipping commercial principals with a view to attracting these businesses to base in Hong Kong. In order to further promote the connectivity of infrastructure in the GBA, the governments of Hong Kong and Shenzhen have established the Task Force for Hong Kong-Shenzhen Cooperation on Cross-Boundary Railway Infrastructure. The task force has embarked on a study on the Hong Kong-Shenzhen West Rail Link connecting Hong Shui Kiu and Qianhai so as to improve connectivity between the western parts of Hong Kong and Shenzhen. The ACL government is pressing ahead with the quota-free scheme for Hong Kong private cars traveling to Guangdong via the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Once the pandemic eases, then eligible Hong Kong private car drivers do not need to apply for a quota, and then they can make use of the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge to commute between Hong Kong and the Guangdong province. That is to provide convenience to Hong Kong residents driving to Guangdong province for short-term business and leisure and other trips. And the Greater Bay Area Development Planning Framework proposes that we should build a cluster of world-class airports, and the SL government will fully assist the HKIA in stepping up its transition functions in order to make better contribution to our country's development. At the same time, the HKIA is actively preparing for the commissioning of the third runway, and the target is to have the entire system up and running in 2024 in order to consolidate the advantage of the international airport in air cargo traffic. We have launched the pilot scheme since last year so that there can be seamless transition for Greater Bay Area cargo to come through to other overseas markets via the HKIA. We'll be able to greatly enhance the accessibility between Hong Kong and the GBA as well as the other parts of the world. And we will also be exploring with the Zhuhai authorities to set up a high-end cluster of aviation businesses. We will be buying shares of the Zhuhai authorities in order to integrate the network of the two airports to enhance the competitiveness of the GBA. We will also be implementing the airport city of the HKIA in order to put to action the vision of the HKIA to build a new landmark to serve the GBA and other parts of the world. We understand the shortage of housing is a big problem, and therefore we will actively identify land so that we will use the biggest determination in order to build more houses and identify more sites. Some 350 hectares of land has been identified, and in the next 10 years, that is from 2022-23 to 2031-32, a total of 330,000 units can be built. We expect that that will meet the demand of 301,000 units demand for that 10-year period. In order to expedite the process, the Housing Authority will also be working in tandem on several areas in order to create more land, and the HA and the Housing Society will also be adopting a flexible approach with comprehensive planning so that we'll be able to maximize the potential of every site. Wherever possible, we will increase the plot ratio, and we will also be using the assembly approach by building the new blocks, and in appropriate projects, we will also be introducing contractors who will work with us in the design and construction in order to expedite the process. In the past 10 years, the Housing Authority has already completed 12 redevelopment projects for aging public housing estates, and 8 would be under reconstruction, and about 28,000 units can be completed after the redevelopment. For example, we have noticed that Saiwan Estate and Matawai Estate have potential resources for decanting, and therefore we will be able to do in situ redevelopment in order to provide more units. And where possible, we will try as far as possible to expand the site size in order to expand the construction site for the redevelopment. In terms of subsidized housing, the Housing Authority will be rolling out some 8,900 HOS flats and 4,700 Green Farm subsidized HOS, and they will be open for application on the 25th of February. In order to crack down on speculative activities, we have already tightened up the restrictions for transfer so that when they try to sell it in the secondary market, it cannot be higher than the original price, and the time period will be extended from 2 years for such restriction. And also, after paying the land premium in the open market, the period will be extended from the initial 10 years to 15 years. Well, given the fact that we are still having a shortage of housing supply, and we are also having people living in substandard housing, and therefore we have made 3 breakthroughs. We have transitional housing and also cash subsidy pilot scheme, and also the rent control scheme for subdivided flats. So with these remarks, I call upon members to support the motion of thanks. Thank you.
Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. President, members, good morning. Mr. Edward Yao is participating in a COVID-related measure, so he's unable to speak now. So I will speak on his behalf. As Mr. Yao said that fighting the epidemic and economic development are related closely, because if we fail to contain the epidemic, we will not be able to revive the economy or give new impetus to our economic development. So we must stand together. As President Xi Jinping has said, we should resort to all measures and all resources and engage the whole government in this fight against the epidemic. I've noticed that in the debate, some members are concerned that our economy, especially foreign enterprises, will suffer a severe negative impact if we continue with our COVID control measures. According to our Chamber of Commerce, their involved business participation in Hong Kong has reached record high last year. Well, they according to 2021 statistics, foreign enterprises and startups in Hong Kong have reached record high levels. There are 9,049 foreign enterprises, and we have seen an increase of 70% to 7,000 odd in 2021. Although we have the uncertainty in global economy, foreign businesses are still have a lot of trust and faith in Hong Kong. We continue to adopt an active strategy to attract the mainland enterprises and foreign businesses to Hong Kong. Facing a lot of challenges, many businesses are suffering and facing a lot of pressure. But our trade is still developing very quickly. If we look at the financial figures, our GDP grew by 6.4%, employment rates decreased. In 2020, Hong Kong ranked number 6 in terms of commodity trading, and our GDP raised by 16% to 1 trillion. From these statistics, we know that notwithstanding the difficulties, foreign investment and foreign companies established in Hong Kong have reached new highs. We are confident that through various economic policies, we can enhance Hong Kong's business to a new scale. I've noticed that many members are concerned how we are going to support the different industries and businesses in the face of the epidemic. Through the financial budget and also the AEF, we have provided support to SMEs to tie over the difficult period. For example, to help SMEs in cash flow management under the 80% loan guarantee and also 20% loan guarantee scheme. We have this low interest 100% loan guarantee scheme for SMEs, and they have also been refined and improved. And total commitment is now raised to $218 billion. We have also extended the repayment period as well as the interest-only payments arrangement. We have approved 47,000 applications involving a total loan commitment of 80 odd million. 29 enterprises have benefited from these schemes. On the support to enterprises in improving their competitive edge, we have dedicated funds, the so-called BUD funds. We have injected $4.5 billion, and many rules have been relaxed. From July 2017, BUD Fund approved a total of $1.9 billion, benefiting 2,500 businesses and 29,000 employees. I've heard from members that we need to further streamline the BUD Fund application procedure. I thank members for their views. We will certainly look into this when we chart our way forward. Some members asked that we should help SMEs interested in exploring the GBA market, and also we should provide them with useful information. Actually, we are actively helping Hong Kong businesses in seizing the business opportunity in the mainland market. And of course, BUD Fund is one of the suitable platforms of helping them. And also, there's a Go GBA, the one-stop app launched by the Trade Development Council, and there are trade service centers in the mainland providing the Hong Kong businessmen with the support that they need in exploring the mainland market. Members, Hong Kong is a free and pluralistic entity where global businesses can thrive and do business. We can leverage on the mainland, and we are very international in nature. Under the framework of the 14th five-year plan, we will actively integrate ourselves into the national development. We seize the dual growth engine of DBA and Belt and Road initiative so as to enhance our strategic role globally. As long as we can control the epidemic, Hong Kong will still have a lot of good opportunities, and businesses and young people will be able to prosper by seizing these opportunities. With this remark, I urge members to support the motion. The third session ends. We now enter the fourth one.
Members who wish to speak in this session, please click on the raise hand feature of Zoom. Then staff will jot down your names. The debate themes in this session include continuously improving people's livelihood, nurturing talent, and youth development. The policy areas in this session have been set out on this page for members' easy reference. Mr. Leung Chi Wing. Thank you, President.